Okay, so what if hell wasn't some chaotic, fiery pit, but a boardroom? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating way of looking at humanity's oldest archetypes, transforming them from ancient demons into, believe it or not, a corporate guide for the modern psyche. Let's get into it. Yeah, forget all the fire and brimstone you've seen in movies. What if hell wasn't chaos at all, but a meticulously organized corporation? That's the core idea we're exploring today. Hell, not as a place of punishment, but as a system of philosophy. And once you see it that way, it gives us this powerful new lens to look at some very human ideas. So here's the game plan. We'll start by understanding this new corporate structure and meet the board of directors. Then, we're going to turn that entire model inward to see what it reveals about us. After that, we'll explore the paradoxical triumph of confronting our own depths, and we'll end with a fundamental choice this whole framework presents to every single one of us. So the big idea here is to stop thinking of these figures as just monsters. Instead, let's start seeing them as executives on a board, where each one represents a specific, coherent, and surprisingly modern worldview. It's basically demonology as philosophy. Now, to make sense of all this, the source material organizes them into what it calls the shadow cabinet. You can think of it like an infernal chain of command, an org chart, that allows us to map out these really complex ideas in a very clear, structured way. So this cabinet is broken down into 3 tiers. Right at the top, you've got the high command. They set the foundational principles. The second tier, well, it focuses all that energy inward, on the self. And that final tier, that governs how those principles are actually expressed out in the world. So let's see how this whole thing is built, starting with the C-suite. First up, Lucifer. In this model, his pride isn't just simple vanity. Nope, it's a whole philosophical stance, an absolute, even logical refusal to submit to any power greater than his own. It is the ultimate declaration of the self as the supreme authority. Full stop. And next to him, you've got Mammon, the CFO of hell, if you will. His philosophy is pure materialism. For him, the only thing that's objectively real is what you can hold, what you can possess. Honor, love, spirit, that's all just an illusion. Tangible assets, that's the only truth. Now, that second tier, the middle management, turns these ideas inward. Asmodeus represents a kind of lust that's all about consumption that just leaves you emptier than before. Leviathan's envy isn't just, wanting your neighbor's car. It's a deep existential anger that their happiness must have been stolen directly from you. And Beelzebub is a very modern gluttony, an endless appetite for resources, energy, and attention that leaves everyone, including the self, completely drained. And the final tier presents a fundamental choice in how we act in the world. On one side is Satan, who argues that meaning is only found through struggle, that conflict is how you discover who you really are. And on the other side, you have Belphegor, the master of sloth, who represents the complete opposite, a deep spiritual apathy, that seductive comfort of simply not acting at all. Okay, so we've got this intricate corporate hierarchy of hell. It's a fantastic tool for storytelling, right? But the source material pushes us to ask a much deeper, much more personal question. What if we stop looking at this as a map of the underworld and start seeing it as a map of our inner world? I mean, what if this entire board of directors is holding a meeting right now inside our own psyche? And this brings us right to the concept of the Jungian shadow. All those parts of ourselves that we hide, that we repress, that we refuse to acknowledge. In this light, the shadow cabinet isn't a collection of demons at all. It's actually a startlingly detailed schematic for our own shadow, a guide to identifying and maybe even integrating our own potential for pride, greed, envy, wrath, and apathy. This is where the whole idea gets really powerful. Because if this cabinet is inside us, then confronting it isn't about defeat or damnation. It's about a strange and profound kind of victory. The sources call this the excelsior of the abyss, a triumphant journey downward. Just think about that for a second. The highest ascent is just a prelude to the most honest dive. This reframes self-exploration completely. It suggests that true self-knowledge doesn't come from climbing higher towards some ideal, but from having the courage to dive deep into the parts of ourselves we're most afraid of. And this descent isn't meant to be done with shame or guilt. No, it's described as a surgical and unrepentant act. It's about looking at your own darkness, your own shadow cabinet, and giving it a sacred yes. It's this powerful affirmation of your whole self, not just the good parts. And this isn't about abandoning ambition. Not at all. It's about redirecting it. So instead of only longing for the stars, external success, validation, you develop a hunger for the deep, a real desire for profound self awareness and for the integration of your entire being. So, after mapping this internal boardroom and understanding the value of a courageous dissent, the entire framework leaves us at a crossroads. It all boils down to one final defining choice. And here it is. It's the tension represented by those last two members of the cabinet we met. On one side, you have the path of Satan, purpose found through conflict, facing the necessary struggles of life head on. And on the other, the path of Belphegor, the seductive safety of apathy, of choosing not to choose, of retreating into inaction. Ultimately, that's the question this entire corporate model of the psyche leaves us with. It maps our inner demons not to scare us, but to clarify our most fundamental choice. Will you engage with the necessary conflicts of your own life, or will you take refuge in the quiet paralysis of indifference? It's a choice we all have to make.